We're here at Mobile World Congress 2019 here in Barcelona. I'm joined by Thomas Noren. Hi Thomas, how are you?
Hi, good to be here. Hi,
Thanks for
Des.
making time to catch up with me.
Yeah.
Great to see you. So you're the head of 5G commercialization at Ericsson. Now that's a heady challenge in anyone's language. Before we dive into that and what you're doing around the space of commercialization of 5G, could you maybe just give us some insight into what you've got on offer here this week at Mobile World Congress on the Ericsson Pavilion?
So, of course, we show a lot of things that we're going to roll out, new products and so forth for 5G this year across the Ericsson portfolio. But we also show some exciting things for the future. How we will connect industries and robots and other things that going to really bring 5G to the entire societies.
Yeah, 5G is an enabler for so many things. One thing I want to clarify though is that we hear a lot of messaging around 5G and a lot of media hype, but is it fair to say that 5G is not a future thing so much, it's here now? I mean, I know you've got something like 10 clients already, named clients that are out in the market enabled. You've got about 42 other clients under NDA in the process of finalizing various things. I mean, 5G is a here and now thing, isn't it? It's not a tomorrow thing.
No, I mean, we have launched already a commercial service in the US.
Yeah.
We are rolling out commercial equipment in Europe, in Asia and Australia. So, I mean, it's really happening.
I'm glad you're in Australia already. I've heard some great things about that.
Yeah.
So, as far as Mobile World Congress goes, I mean, what's happening with your 5G space here? What can you tell us about what's on show? What's some of the demos that you've got? Some of the examples of what you're doing to show the commercialization challenge of 5G?
So one good thing with Ericsson is that we have prepared for a long time for 5G. So much of the gear we have delivered up till now is actually prepared for 5G.
Right.
So that's good. We have seeded the market, make sure that transition is going to be as simple as possible.
Yep.
But this year we also show some new gear that will make it even easier to roll out 5G. So we combine bands in double and triple bands, so you have fewer boxes in the sites. That's good. We introduced new frequency bands, and we really lower the total cost for deployment of 5G.
Well, that's the big challenge, isn't it? Because you've got some telcos who have been around for decades, who have massive sunk cost in infrastructure. You've got new disruptors that are coming along that are, in many ways, software only. And in between, you've got to try and combine the hybrids. And that's just for the telcos and the carrier operators. And then you've got all the other components around IoT and various stuff that come around that. So one of the things that really strikes me about what Ericsson's doing at the moment is you've been through this whole journey of cloudification. You've made most of your things cloud native, and those that aren't yet are in the process of doing it. So things are running in Docker and under Kubernetes, in OpenStack and all that sort of stuff. You can now essentially do that sort of agile DevOps for the bulk of what you've got. You've got the acquisition of Xenix that now gives you a lot more intelligence in that space. Tell us about what's happening in the industry with some of the organizations that you can name. Where are some of the use cases that have already pushed into this whole commercialization of 5G, this challenge you're working on?
I think what most operators will use 5G first for is to add a lot of capacity and speeds so they can satisfy their users. And we're going to publish a market report soon. Okay. And that's going to show that about 40% of all users experience congestion in major cities. Right. That's a lot. So this is a real problem operators need to solve, because people use more and more data all the time. We do more streaming on video and music, and particular video consumes a lot of data. A lot of rich media, right? A lot of rich media. So that's going to continue, I think. But then we add new use cases. Yep. I mean, fixed wireless access is something already launched in the US by Verizon. We see other use cases with IoT, as you mentioned. And we see that industries will get connected also. We see a huge interest from companies that are not really our customers today, but want to use our technology and leverage it together with our partners. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, I remember I had Patrick Cowell on my podcast late last year, and he had this great anecdote where he couldn't work out where his son's mobile bill was getting so high. And so he looked at the usage his son had with his mobile phone. It turns out that he was using YouTube to listen to music. Yeah. So he was streaming full-time video, right? Yes. And throughout Southeast Asia, we're seeing that a lot of messaging apps now, instead of having people type in multi-byte characters, they're just using voice. Yeah. So you see people walking around with the phone, talking to it like this, leaving little short voice messages that go in the same way we might do tweets these days. Yes. And all those use cases are just, I guess, technically mobile broadband sort of stuff that's impacting us right now. But at the other end spectrum, it seems to me you've got the cellular IoT offering, you've got a whole range of security, and network slicing approach seems to resolve this with what I think from Ericsson is sort of an end-to-end solution. I mean, you've had a very big piece of the puzzle. Now it seems like you've wrapped it all into one great big thing. You've now got cloud-native operational support services that are at one end. You've got the cloud-native business support services. You've got the Xenix acquisition.
This must put you in such a competitive space that I don't know what your competitors are doing.
I think competitors are also developing, of course.
Of course.
But I think for this year we have launched a new orchestrator, so you can put software where it's really needed most, and you can activate it, and you can manage the life cycle of software in a completely different way. We are introducing a dual mode core, so you can support both traditional core, but also 5G core for the future on the same platform.
Yep.
It's all virtualized and put on a cloud platform, cloud native. And then we actually we also launched that we will do virtualized RAN, radio access network, for also virtualized, also for 5G. We've been running that with 4G already, with one of the European larger operators, with TIM in Italy, and it's been running very, very well. And now we're going to do the same thing for 5G.
So for folk who aren't overly familiar with what that actually means, maybe just walk us through the fundamentals of what that actually is, and I guess where it fits into the whole stack of what you're offering.
So the network is of course divided in different pieces. And on the radio access side, as I said before, we introduced a number of new radios to really make it easier to deploy networks, make total cost of ownership lower, find new frequencies, and facilitate that piece. On the core side, we also want to make things easier by have a very smooth transition over to next generation core networks, where it will be easier to develop new services. So we do that on a cloud native platform. It can be on an Ericsson platform, but we also run on any third party.
So open standards.
Yes, open standards, absolutely. And in between there, you see that there are some use cases where it's really valuable to also virtualize the RAN software itself. So that's what we are enabling now. So we will do that, and that's very good for if you want to deploy a large number of cells in a network. That's easier from a core network perspective to do it in that way, or to set up slices, and you can have dedicated core networks for different slices. That's another facilitation of this.
Now we hear a lot about the whole edge computing and edge network piece. Where does this whole challenge fit with what you're doing with the commercialization of 5G? Where's the break point, or where are the interconnects with what you're doing in centralized infrastructure and data centers and your core cloud versus what you're doing with some of the edge compute and some of the edge of the network pieces?
So that's a really good question, because some of the use cases we see for the future, for example, if you want to connect a factory and all the robots within the factory, you want to move out the core network to that premise for availability and control reasons for the factory, right? Now, if you virtualize the core network and you have put that on a local cloud platform, why wouldn't you put the RAN software on the same platform? And the operation and maintenance system on the same platform. So that is one of the things that we're enabling for the future.
I see that as being a massive game changer for a range of industries, and particularly telco, and certainly with what you're doing with Ericsson, because I think, when we look at where the data is, it's at the edge of the network, isn't it? And when the devices, I mean, with traditional smartphones, they're at the edge of the network, and we've been historically hauling all that back to a central location and moving it back. Now I see the intelligence is moving to the edge of the network, and what you're doing with now Senix's acquisition with that healing capabilities at the edge of the network as well, and routing around problems. That must be a game changer for you as well when you look at where you're going with that intelligent network component.
When you do that closed loop, of course you can get a performance that's much greater than we can otherwise guarantee.
That sounds exciting. Now, last question for you. The whole challenge of 5G commercialization is a heady challenge. We've got an exciting week here at Mobile World Congress 2019 in Barcelona to see some of that. Beyond this event, what are some of the big things that are happening in your world beyond this event? Trends, shifts, where are you going after MWC 19?
I think a lot of things are going to happen now about more and more countries allocating more spectrum. We're going to see relaunches, things like that. I also think we will see introduction of new types of spectrum. So we talk about millimeter wave, very, very high, 28 gigahertz, 39 gigahertz spectrum. That's being deployed in the US. I think we will see that in more places in the world. But to do that effectively, you often need to combine it with a lower spectrum. And that, I think, is going to be a very exciting development.
I guess there's a big challenge around the governance of this as a technology and a series of standards, but also the government controls and so forth, and the regulatory requirements, because historically they've allocated spectrum in a particular way for what might be radio-style handsets. Now we've got a very different digital sort of architecture. where do you think this is going? Do you think governments are going to get a little behind the game? Do you think that the government's going to be thinking about this sooner than later? Because I see this whole challenge of better use of current spectrum, but also a demand for new spectrum, because you've got in-building, you've got campus and precinct-wide, you've got rural and nationwide. I mean, these seem to be big challenges for governments to face, as well as telcos to sort of meet in the middle, and it seems to me that Ericsson is helping drive that conversation.
I think we are at a little bit of a really next generation this time. It's not just a little bit better, it will start like that. If you think about the future, it's not only that we will be connected with our smartphones, the entire world will be connected.
Yep.
The electricity grid will be connected. The transport network will be connected. All cars will be connected.
Right.
And that's going to have a fundamentally different impact on society than mobile broadband.
Yep.
You know, if I'm back home, I can't buy a bus ticket on my smartphone, I have a problem, but frankly, you don't care.
Yeah, yeah.
If there are no buses working, then a lot of people will.
Everyone cares, yeah. No, absolutely. No, it's an exciting future. Well, it all sounds amazing, and I cannot wait to get my hands on and experience myself this week. And I'm also looking forward to seeing where this goes in the next 12 to 18 months as far as the industry is concerned, because I think, as you just alluded to, it's a very exciting future, and it's definitely going to make the world better. Yeah. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for catching up with me on camera. It's been great to see you, and I look forward to seeing where this whole week goes. And I really genuinely believe that NWC 19 is going to be yet another amazing event for Ericsson.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Des. Thank
Cheers.
you.